Today is October 18, 2023. My name is Rob Carr of Kalamazoo Right to Life, and this is Pro-Life Week. Well, a few things on the program today. First, last time on Monday, I was talking about the comparison between what Hamas did in Israel with those 5,000 rockets and their attacks on Israeli citizens, primarily citizens, killing 1,300 people in one day, I believe. And I was trying to make that comparison with abortion, the barbarism involved. And I quoted from President Biden, who had said that what Hamas did was not, quote, was not human behavior. It is not human. And I agree with him, as I said Monday, and then I try to make the comparison between the inhumanity that Hamas perpetrated against the Israelis and what the abortion industry commits, the atrocities against the unborn in our country. And, for those of you who might say that it was a false equivalency, I heard this on the news, so this is probably almost about a week ago now, that based on population numbers, Israel has just under 10 million people. But if you compare the ratio of the number of deaths in Israel compared to their population and compare that to the US population, if we had the same percentage of deaths, the US would have experienced 50,000 Americans killed in one day. That puts a different spin. I mean, when you think of 1,300, I mean, even though that's a huge number, it's not a staggering number. But 50,000, yeah, that's a huge number. I mean, we lost about 58,000 Americans in Vietnam over a 25-year period. And we would have almost equaled that in one day. If you have a small community of 1,000 people and they lose 100 people, well, that's 10% of the population. But if you have 100 people being killed, let's say in New York City or Chicago, well, it's still a horrible number of 100 killed, but it's a small percentage compared to the whole. So I just want to make that comparison that this would be the equivalent of 50,000 Americans killed in one day by a terrorist group. And then I go back to abortion. We have had 64, not 1,000, but we have had 64 million babies aborted in our country since 1973. And that makes, it makes the Holocaust pale by comparison. It's a staggering number that a lot of liberals in our country have not really grasped the significance of that number, because to them the baby is a non-entity. It really is a non-entity. The focus has always been on the woman, and I guess my question is in this area, what to the pro-abortion people, when a baby's born, they get rights, they're U.S. citizens, blah blah blah. So what is that baby a week before birth? Is it a non-entity? Is it not human? Well, they would probably say it's human. So how about 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks before, or a month before, or 6 weeks before? At what point does that baby now become a non-entity? I mean, does if the baby had DNA, 2 weeks before birth, or 3 weeks before birth, did the baby not have DNA 6 weeks before birth, or 8 weeks before birth, or 3 months before birth? At what point did that baby, that fetus, let's call it, okay, that developing baby, At what point did that baby not have DNA? Well, it didn't. It always had DNA from the moment of conception. And the DNA that little infant had, that little embryo had, was distinct DNA from the mother and the father. It's an entirely new, unique individual that will grow from conception to natural death. There's that continuum of life from conception to natural death. Life does not begin at birth. But unfortunately, to many Democrats and the pro-abortion people and the liberals, life does begin at birth, which is scientifically untrue. So I just wanted to finish that. This is not a false equivalency. What Hamas did was as bad as abortion. It was. Okay, let me move on. Yesterday, I talked about, on Monday, I talked about this vote in the state Senate in Michigan on the Reproductive Health Act. Well, it really was not the full Senate. It was on the Senate Housing and Human Services Committee. And the bills passed. But, I mean, they passed because the state Senate is controlled by the Democrats. There are 38 members. The Democrats have 20, and the Republicans have 18. So in this committee, the vote was 8-3. So if here again, even if you looked at the closeness in the state Senate of 20-18, the committee should have been comprised of 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans. But they stacked it again. They stacked it like they did in the House. They stacked their committees, and it was 8-3 to get to that number of 11 state senators. So the bill passed, and now it's going to go to the full Senate, and it will probably pass in the full Senate. But in the state House, we've talked before, again and again, there is a lone Democrat who is opposing this bill, and I think until they do something to this woman to threaten her or sweeten the pot, that they will not bring this bill up in the state House until they know they have her vote. Because without her vote, the bill dies. Okay, last item before I let you go. November 8, 2023, I've talked about this before, the March for Life in Lansing, Michigan at the State Capitol building. Please consider going to this rally. I know it's during the week, so if some of you have to put in for the day off, please do that if you can. Kalamazoo the Right to Life has chartered 4 buses, and we will take as many people as we can to this rally. And we're charging $15 for adults, $10 for students, and if you have a larger family, we're giving you a package deal where the charge would not exceed $50 for the family. So that would be a discount if you have a larger family and the whole crew, the whole gang wanted to go to this rally. Please consider March for Life. The governor needs to see a large representation of the pro-life community. The governor needs to see that even though she's ramming this Reproductive Health Act down our throats, it is not going to happen on our watch, because we need to show her and tell her that we have not abandoned the unborn. And kind of going back to this 8-3 vote in the state Senate committee, I was looking at an article that dealt with this issue, and the governor claims that she has all these opinion polls that prove that the vast majority of Michigan voters favor repealing all these pro-life laws. Well, according to another survey that just came out, I'm not sure who did the survey necessarily, but it says here 72% of Michigan voters want the 24-hour waiting period that allows for informed consent to remain law of the state. 72%. Now, the governor will say, no, that's not true. Most Michiganders want to see that 24-hour waiting period scrapped. But no, this poll says 72% of Michigan voters want the 24-hour waiting period and informed consent to be the law of the state. Also, a stunning 95% of Michigan voters support health, clinic, and safety regulations. Now, we've talked before about this. Making sure that the hallways in these abortion clinics are wide enough so if there's a complication, EMS personnel can get stretchers in there and equipment to spirit that person to a hospital and possibly save the woman's life. Inspections, making sure these places are clean, just common sense regulations. And 95% support this. It's just common sense. And the governor has claimed, and so do a lot of these Democratic state senators have said, that these are intrusive regulations that have nothing to do with women's safety and with healthcare. They're there to hinder women's access to reproductive health. Well, I still believe, like that representative from Detroit, Karen Whitsett, who's, like I said before, is pro-choice. She said that if you're going to terminate the life of an unborn child, it's not too much to ask that you be required to have a 24-hour waiting period to think about that decision. And who benefits from that 24-hour waiting period? If she changes her mind, it's that little baby in the womb that will live. And isn't that what it's all about? Having the unborn child a chance to live and to grow and to be a blessing to that family, a blessing to our community and to society, and to be able to fulfill what God has planned for that child's life. Remember, life exists in the womb, conception to natural death. And we should not be playing God. Give life a chance. Give life a chance. With that, I will let you go. I will see you next time.